Welcome to another episode of the Redeemed Man podcast. Over the last few weeks, we have had different guests on talking about sports and how that's impacted their life. Oftentimes for men, we connect around sports and other things more than we do, honestly, than our faith. And we at the Redeemed feel like it shouldn't be so, that it should be around our relationship with the Lord, that we find common ground, that we can talk no matter what background or things that we enjoy. And so today I have a friend of mine on the show, Gage Dollar. Gage played baseball at Central High School of Phenix City, went on to play college ball at Alabama State University, and after that is now a mortgage lender with North Star Mortgage. He's married to Haley Dollar and has an awesome 6-month-old little boy named Maddox. Gage, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here.
I want to jump right in with some rapid-fire questions just so our audience can get to know you. Starting out, if you could visit anywhere in the world, where would it be?
Greece. We actually talked about going to Greece for our honeymoon and ended up just going to Mexico. So actually did not go to Mexico, went to Jamaica. We went to Mexico another time, but Greece was one that we actually really wanted to go to. Decided not to, but we will. We will. Good.
Well, look forward for you guys being able to get that experience. What was your first job?
Every summer I worked with my granddaddy. He had a lawn care company, and we just went out there and grind in the heat every summer.
Did you get to drive the mower?
Nope, was not allowed to get on the zero turn. So I was a weed eater, and I would get to blow off the driveways after. But no, it's manual labor, man. I didn't get to set up on the zero turn or anything.
What time do you normally get up in the morning?
Man. Lately has been closer to 6:30. Back in working out though, so have this morning was up at 5. So hopefully we'll get back in that routine.
Gotcha. Yeah, with a new one at home, it definitely throws off the rhythm, doesn't it?
Luckily he doesn't. He sleeps in until about 7:30, 8 o'clock. So we have a little bit of time before.
What's your favorite quote or Bible verse?
Always loved Colossians 3:23. Obviously in a baseball setting, it was one that you could kind of apply to anything, and says that in all things work wholeheartedly if you're working for the Lord, not for man. So it was something that was easy to apply. I always loved it. Well, had it on my glove in college and everything. So.
I think you still apply that every day too. So yeah, that's awesome.
It's a good one.
Favorite movie?
Sorry, I'm not making a very rapid fire.
No,
but this is one you got to think about.
See if it was a sports movie or not.
Yeah. Me and my wife have actually been on a kick. They just released all the Fast and Furious movies again on Netflix. So we've been on the Fast and Furious ones. Those are all-time greats.
Those are a challenge for me because Mission Impossible, Fast and Furious, every time I walk out of the theater, every time I watch that movie, I want to drive crazy.
Yes.
I want to do something, adrenaline rush. I mean, just wild.
Yes. Fast and Furious movies are great. I'm a big series guy. Watched a lot of great series on Netflix stuff. The Untold series right now on Netflix around sports is great. So yeah, I would say that's one of my top for sure.
Who has influenced you the most in your life?
There's a guy by the name of Mitchell Dean. He was my FCA director in high school, and he took me in. He met me every single Tuesday morning in high school from 10th grade to 12th grade until I went off. Met me every Tuesday morning, 6 a.m. at Chick-fil-A, and man, we just dove in the Word. He officiated my wedding, everything. So he's definitely had the biggest impact on me. Obviously, my parents. I have the most incredible parents. So yeah, I would attribute a lot of it to Mitchell. Yeah.
Well, Gage, I appreciate you answering those quick questions.
Yeah.
I know sometimes those are hard ones to answer just off the bat, but thank you. So you played baseball. So how did this love for baseball develop?
Man, I grew up in a sports family. My stepdad played high school baseball, and man, it was just immediately. It was I was in t-ball, I believe, and it was just I fell in love with it, and played every single year for 18 years after that. So it was definitely tough that last year, kind of hanging them up after it being everything for 18 years. But it was just grew up in a sports family. My brother's a college quarterback. now. So man, we love sports.
Well, I can definitely tell just being around you how much you love sports.
Yeah.
If you don't know Gage, you wouldn't know how much time he spends trying to figure out how to play something, whether it's playing a pickup game of basketball or getting out on the golf course, which I know is probably one of your favorite places now.
Oh yeah, man, I love it. And when you go to college, I mean, I went to college as a pitcher, so you got to pick up something else. Like all I do is pitch now, So it's something you got to pick up, and but started golfing, and man, I wish I picked it up earlier. It's definitely something I've grown a love for. And then really anything, man, you can put me on a pickleball court or anything, man. I love it. I just love competing. It's fun. Yeah.
Well, you mentioned college, and I would love to hear more about that because I know you went to a historic Black college and as a minority. How was that, and what did you learn in that season of going to a place that a lot of people would go, hey, I'm not so sure I feel comfortable, and putting you in a place where a lot of other people, hey, that's the life that they've lived. What did you learn through that experience, and how did that shape you into the man that you are now?
Yeah, very interesting college. I went to a college, an HBCU, historically Black college university, and the entire baseball team was Hispanic. So it was a very, very, very unique environment for me where my head coach was full Puerto Rican, came from the islands to play baseball. And so just had an incredible connection down there. So you're in the classroom and you're in a completely different setting than you are when you're at the field. Yeah. So it was really cool. I learned so much about just the value of working together for a common goal. Doesn't matter what background you come from. You also learn just how blessed we are, and being on a Hispanic team from these guys who just come to America to play ball. Yeah. That's all they've ever known. You kind of find your love for the game again. Practice is so fun. So a lot of these guys don't even know English, and you're finding a way to communicate, and learned a ton. But it was a great time in my life. I would do it all over again. It's fun.
Did you pick up some Spanish?
I learned little things that went along with the game of baseball. That was about all we talked about. We spent 6 hours a day, especially in season. You're 6, 7, 8 hours a day at the field, so you don't really talk much other than baseball. Yeah. Learned a good bit when I was there. I tried to do the Duolingo app. Tried it, man. I couldn't. When they start talking, there's no way you're picking up on anything. So gave that up. And then I went to Chick-fil-A when I graduated, and went to a leadership development program, and the entire kitchen was Hispanic there too, but it was an entirely different vocabulary,
yes,
right?
Yes.
And then you're learning different things. You're learning, kitchen items instead of learning baseball. So I could pick up on conversation. I don't remember a whole lot, but I could probably pick up a little bit.
Well, thinking about your sports time in college, and just like you talked about the different things that you found common ground, why do you think sports allows us to connect on such a deep level with people across racial barriers, across economic levels? Like, I think a lot of ways it really is a common denominator for a lot of people. But why do you think that's such the case with sports?
From a player's perspective, man, the idea of like shared suffering is something that's massive. I mean, you're in there every single day, man, just killing yourself for the common goal of, man, we're going to win a championship, man, we're going to go win ball games. And that creates just this bond that, I mean, you may not even be able to have a full conversation with somebody, but man, you love them and you respect them, and you're for them, and you want the best for them. So I think the shared suffering piece is a big piece from the perspective of an athlete. From a fan's perspective, I don't know other than, man, just sports are so much fun. Man, we love competing. We love becoming a part of something. When you feel like you are a part of something, you become a part of a fan base, right? I mean, you think about Alabama fans here, right? Auburn fans, Georgia fans, whatever it is, and you're a part of something bigger. Man, like you really feel like you are part of Alabama football. You would get so excited whenever they win. You know, you get so excited when that touchdown pass is thrown. I just think that idea of being a part of something bigger, being a part of a community, really goes a long way in sports.
Yeah, I would agree, and I think it even gives you that ability to kind of claim your group, your people.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, for me, it'd be the opposite. It'd be War Eagle.
Yeah, I'm an Auburn fan. Auburn fan.
You're talking about Alabama. I'm like, come on, Gage, come on.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Auburn fan through and through, except for baseball. I'm an Alabama State fan until I die for baseball.
Love it. When you think about sports, though, I think as far as guys of the faith, of understanding, like, I think there's a reason that sometimes we don't find the greater story in being a believer, of like, man, we have a mission, a call, and we're stepping in a community that can make a difference. And one of the things that I think can translate from the sports world to the faith world is like, let's rally men to things that really count. And at the end of the day, sports are great. I mean, they allow us to cross so many barriers, to have fun, but it's not something that's eternal. So how do we leverage and see, a call to something that's even greater?
Right.
In your life, I know you have made a huge difference in so many people because of your faith. How did you become a believer, and what did that look like? Obviously, you mentioned Mitchell and your growth, but how did you come to know Christ?
Yeah. To piggyback off of what you were just saying just a minute ago, I think it's so cool. You hear people who, I've never been on a overseas mission trip or anything like that, but you hear people's stories about when they go overseas or they go on this. I mean, it could be wherever, but they go on these mission trips and they come back and they're like unbreakable bond, right? Because they're all there for a specific mission. Like they know their purpose there. And I think that, man, if we could just rally that same kind of calling here, it would 100%. Like it would be the same feeling. It's just a lot of people don't necessarily understand how important the mission is. It's just something to go through life and not necessarily see the importance in at times. Can kind of just be put in the back of our head. From how I came to know Christ standpoint, sorry to get back to your question.
Oh, no.
I grew up in a family that believed in God. We didn't necessarily go to church all the time. I was kind of in and out of church growing up. When I was in middle school or so, we started going back to church, and I got baptized, was saved in middle school. But it wasn't until my high school years when I really began to form this relationship with God that really made me who I am and has sustained me through this time. And it's funny, I started going to a youth group when I was in late going into high school. And it was an incredible youth group, but it was because there was a lot of your friends, a lot of girls, that was the reasoning you were going. And I was chasing my now wife. So started going to a church, a youth group on Wednesday nights there. And man, that is where I feel like I truly started this relationship with God. So it's pretty cool that, you find yourself in church through chasing girls or whatever it is. And run into God, absolutely.
So what do you think, was there a moment you feel like things flipped, or do you think it was just a process where you began to understand what it meant to have a relationship?
I can remember times, conferences and FCA events and things where it's like, man, I vividly remember this moment of like, man, I'm turning things around right now. But I think more than anything, it's been a process. Obviously, getting in touch with people like Mitchell, and he just sees something in me, and I don't know what he sees, but he wants to meet with me every Tuesday, and man, I'm just eternally grateful for that. And man, just learning like, what does this relationship look like? And obviously growing in that over time. I do think it's been more of a process than anything, but I can remember certain events and times in my life where I was like, man, this is real. This isn't just a religion, right?
Well, to know you is to know you have a gift of leadership. I mean, and I can easily see how Mitchell saw that in your life, the ability to influence, but not just influence others, but generally care for people. You're very gifted. most people, when they meet you, would never know your age or guess your age. You speak with a level of maturity that's beyond your age. And so I think, again, just very gifted. So I can definitely see how that influenced, how others identified that and wanted to pour into that. Yeah. And I've watched you and had the opportunity to watch you pour into other people. Mm-hmm. You are so good with people. You really do shepherd people well. You care for people well. You take time to listen. You're genuine. And just where do you think those skills have grown the most or developed the most, and how do you think God is using those today to really serve and invest in others?
Yeah. Well, one, thank you for all those kind words, but I think that I think God has really shown me favor in a lot of different ways. I think a lot of it I didn't work for. I didn't really care to see the skill in at times, but I do know being a part of an incredible community and being part of a great church and just having people that have poured into me has made me want to do that. It's given me more of that internal drive, that internal fire. And obviously the more you get to know the heart of God, the more you want to be like it. Obviously there's times where you there's seasons where it doesn't seem like it's prevalent. But I think it's just one favor from God, just super eternally grateful for that. And then just people who've poured into me, and I want to be that for somebody else. Mm-hmm. There's so many people in our area that have just been like literally life changing for me. Shannon Poole and Jonathan Taylor, who was my youth pastor in high school, and Mitchell Dean and you and all these people who've just poured into me over time has made me want to become I see the legacy in other people's life. Man, I want to leave a legacy, so.
Well, you're well on the way to doing that. I know you spoke earlier about meeting your wife. So tell us a little bit more about Haley and you guys, how long you've been married.
Yeah, we got married, or we've been together since we were sophomores in high school, and high school sweetheart. When I went off to college, she stayed home and went to college here, community college. And we got engaged in college. My dad got back from a deployment, and that was the big thing for us. She wanted family involved, and so I got engaged in college, and then 2 years later we got married when my dad got back from a deployment. So she's been there from the beginning. She's seen everything. She's seen every side of me. She's seen me grow, and now we are coming up on 2 years of marriage with a 6-month-old, and man, it's been fun. It's so much fun. You hear people talk about, just wait until you get out of college, go, and man, none of that stuff is true if you find the one, man. So yeah, she's incredible.
No, you guys are a great couple, and love watching y'all with this new little one. And tell me a little bit about that. What's it like, and what are some of the challenges you're facing as a new dad? Some of the fears that are coming in there, because stepping into fatherhood's another level.
Yeah, I think more than anything, it's just a different weight than you ever felt. You're like, man, we'll figure it out with me and Haley. We'll do whatever. Now it's like, man, this is real. Yeah. You really got to provide. You really got to do all this. It's like just a different weight than I've ever felt. But man, it's been so much fun. So much fun. My patience is tested, obviously.
Just wait.
Right. But more than anything, man, I'm learning so much. You quickly learn, especially through the pregnancy, how selfish you are and how very self-centered a lot of your tendencies are.
Yeah, I think people think they figured out when they get married, and then when you have kids, it's like, oh wow,
way different.
It's so different.
Yeah, way different. So I think that more than anything, it's just learning and growing right now, and man, God, teach me something new, because I have no idea what I'm doing still, right? Thank God for my wife, who has it all figured out as far as the mom, what to do. And the other day we were feeding him eggs for the first time, and I'm like, why can't you just give him this piece and let him chew on it? It's like, he can't chew yet. Like he's got 2 teeth, he can figure it out. It's eggs, But yeah, we're learning a lot. Learning the idea of slowing. I think that's the biggest thing, man. For me, I've been so go my whole life. 24 years old, and man, I'm balls to the wall all the time. Yeah. if I could find 10 minutes in a day, I'll find something to do during that 10 minutes. You can go run a mile, you can go to the driving range, you can figure out something to do, man. And now, man, I'm just learning how important it is to slow down. Like the Book of Psalms talks about, be still and know I am God. Like be still, And I think that's also I think a lot of ways it talks about obviously your mind and but I think in a lot of ways it's physical. I am really learning the importance of this from 7 to 8. We put the baby down every night and we get to spend that time with the baby. And then from 8 to 10 now, 8 to 10, whatever time we go to bed, man, I'm really getting time with my wife that I never had. Or that I at least didn't make time for, I probably had the time, but, man, it's just being able to slow down because we could book a dinner with friends in a heartbeat, and find something to do every night that's going to keep us occupied. But this idea of slowing down has been something that has been huge for me lately. So we're definitely enjoying that.
Good.
Yeah.
You guys have a lot of friends, I know, and community around you. And one of the heartbeats of the Redeemed is helping connect to supportive community.
Yeah.
You yourself as a young guy, what have you learned about the relationships that you surround yourself with, how to be vulnerable in some areas that maybe you don't really want to talk about?
Yeah.
What have you learned about that? And even as you guys as a couple and the relationships you have with other couples?
Yeah. So when I was growing up, man, I wanted to be a good example. And that's all I really cared about was, man, the God thing's cool. And, I want to be a good Christian, but more than anything, man, I want to be a good example because I had a lot of friends that were going on the wrong path. Yeah. I wanted to be a good example for my brother and my sister. And I wanted to be a good example. So that kept a lot of things that I didn't want anyone to know about, right? I kept a lot of things in the dark. And it ate me up just over time. And before you know it, I'm in college and I'm supposed to be that guy that everyone knows they can call, and I'm supposed to be the guy with influence, right? But man, if they only knew what I did, if they only knew. And I just the enemy definitely planted that in my head for many, many years, man. You got to be perfect. You got they can't know what you've done. And I think that a new influence, man, a new chapter of my life opened whenever I walked into a freedom group at our church. And dude, it was my sophomore year in college. It was right out of a 21 Days of Prayer. Yeah. And I joined a freedom group in Montgomery with a bunch of guys I didn't know. And you would think you're walking with a bunch of guys you don't know and it's going to be a little different. And dude, I loved it. Just experienced a level of freedom I never had. I've learned the power of authenticity, man, and just being able to talk about, the mistakes and the hang-ups and, man, just everything that comes with life. And I think it's made me a better leader. I think that, man, I led from a insecure heart for so long. And this kind of idea of inferiority of, man, you don't deserve any of this. You don't, I think that freedom group just changed the trajectory of my life in a lot of ways. And it's because I got in community. And I finally, after many years of hearing everybody tell me, you got to get in community, you got to get in a small group. And I did it. And now there's not a semester we're missing a small group. We'll have some sort of small group. So you talked about being in a marriage group and just those kind of things. And that's something that we've been able to be a part of a great marriage group, and then lead a marriage group and not know what the heck we're doing. And it was 3 months after we were married and they were telling us, hey, you guys need to lead a marriage group. We're like, all right, I guess we will. And man, just the fruit of that was just incredible. So
isn't it crazy how when you do that, when you step out in faith, leading, oftentimes that's the season you really learn the most is when you step into pouring into others. Not that you have all the answers, but you really begin to solidify what you think about something, who you really are. And I think it happens when you step into leadership. And I think a lot of people miss out because they're always afraid to do that. They got to have it all together. And the reality is you're never going to have it all together.
Man, you'll believe that lie till the day you die, So I think that there's a level of intentionality at that point too, man. I have to lead these people. I have to prepare this material, or we have to be the ones that are kind of running the ship. So at that point, there's a different level of intentionality, and I think that God blesses that. So yes, the semesters I lead versus semesters that I just attend are just night and day. Not that I don't get anything out of just attending, because there's seasons for that, but the idea of leading and learning so much more is definitely prevalent.
Well, being a young man, relatively newly married, a little one, what are some things you do to protect yourself to make sure that you do keep those guards up? Because the enemy loves to steal, kill, and destroy.
Yes.
And so you're successful, you have family, you have a kid. Like, what are those things that you, as a young man, go, hey, I'm going to make sure this is a part of my life so that I'm protected?
Yeah. Number one's I got to be in a small group. I got to be around men that love me, that pray for me, that challenge me. I've got to be. I know that I'm answering to those guys each week, and that's just consistently in the back of my head. And then two, like, man, just praying through that. I mean, like, we're as men, we're gonna have temptation. We're gonna have lies in our head. Like, we're gonna have all these things. The enemy is after the men. So, man, just praying protection over that. Man, just praying every single day, like, Lord, protect my eyes, protect my ears, protect my mind. You know, it's consistent, and knowing that you can't do it on your own, right? It's so got to come from an idea of surrender. So yeah, those two things are massive. I mean, for my life, just, man, being connected in community and then being in prayer consistently.
So shifting gears, let's go back to sports. I would love to hear one of your favorite memories from the time you were playing ball, and then also your just favorite sports memory in general. You may have been a fan in the stands, but I'd love to hear those too.
Man, I've been, to start with the just favorite sports memory in general, I've been so blessed. My granddaddy took me and my brother on a lot of different just trips when we were young, and I got to see Yankees and Red Sox and like all these crazy. I got to see David Ortiz hit a home run, Clayton Kershaw throw a no-hitter into the ninth. I just got to see so many cool things just in the baseball realm. So, man, I could sit here and tell stories all day about just the things I got to witness in person that were really cool. And then as far as my favorite sports memory, I was fortunate enough to face a team where they were having a bad day and I was having a good day, and luckily I threw a no-hitter in college. That was a cool thing, but man, it doesn't compare.
You were a freshman, right?
A freshman, yeah. It was my second career start. So I was just a newbie and they didn't know what I had. So I got lucky. So was lucky enough to throw a no-hitter in college. I think one of my favorite things though was my senior year in high school. It was down to the last game. We were playing our rival, and it was for the area. It was to clinch a spot in the area playoffs, and it's like that game was just incredible. And like I remember, that was more important to me because it wasn't just a cool accolade for me. Man, that was a team moment where, man, when something is in a game as big as that, man, there's nothing like it. There's nothing like that win or that walk off, or it's just incredible.
You mentioned team. And one of the things my wife often talks about, she played college basketball, is just, it's one of the things that I think she loves the most about sport is the team mentality.
Yes.
And she often feels like people don't really understand that have never been on a team in the sports realm of like what it means to like work together to make something happen.
Yes.
For you, what have you experienced in that environment? Being a pitcher, I think a little bit like a quarterback of you're kind of the face of the team sometimes. And so, how do you keep that team dynamic? What have you learned about the importance of team, and how does that impact even now how you partner with other people?
Yeah. I think the cool part, one about baseball itself, and I think this kind of goes across all sports, is the ownership aspect. Yeah. Like everybody has an assignment, and if you don't complete your assignment, like you're going to have to answer to it. And in baseball, it's kind of amplified. Like there's one pitcher and there's one hitter, and every single pitch is in that pitcher's hands, right? So everything is seen much more on a bigger scale. If you make an error, everyone's going to see it. Versus, let's just say a lineman, if they miss an assignment and the guy still gets the ball off, you may not see it, right? So it's almost amplified in a baseball realm. And the cool part about that is like, man, there's no excuses. You own it. Like that's the cool part about it. It's a lesson learned, but it's also like it's full transparency on the team, and you're together, man, and you know everyone's going to make errors. There's nobody that's going to have 1,000 fielding percentage, or someone that just has no walks or anything. I mean, so there's that level of transparency that you can't run away from.
So Jocko Willink, it's extreme ownership.
Oh yeah, absolutely, extreme ownership. Yeah, it's that mindset of, man, I'm gonna mess up, and I know my team has my back. That's a really cool piece of it. And then what was the last part
how
of the
do you
question?
apply that today as a mortgage lender in a total different world?
Oh my gosh,
as far as that team mentality, because I know there's a lot of different things that go into somebody buying a home, but I also think there's probably some competitive things that can also destroy that teamwork.
Yes. So the cool part about baseball is that failure is inevitable.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, you fail 7 out of 10 times, and you are going to, like, you have Hall of Fame numbers, right? Yeah. I mean, you're batting 300, right?
Yep.
So obviously learning how to overcome failure is massive, just translating over into a sales world of really what it is. As in the mortgage space is, man, you're going after finding business. Man, you just got to find business. So the reality of that is, man, you got to learn, how to overcome failure, because you're going to fail time and time again. And that level of teamwork that it's involved in a transaction these days. I mean, there's so many parties that go into buying a home, right? So you always got to be on the same page, and we always got to understand we all have the same goal in mind. Let's work together to get it done.
Yeah.
So, man, it translates so easily into what I'm doing now. Obviously, it can hurt when you have someone like me on one end that's extremely competitive and like, man, we're closing this deal, So, and then other one's like, man, it's okay, we'll get it done. I'm like, no, man, let's go. So that competitive edge at times can hurt some things or push some buttons the wrong way. But yeah, as long as everyone's on that same team train, then, man, we'll get it done. So that's the cool part about it.
Well, it's, you guys get a picture of Gage and his competitive nature. Like he's driven too. So there's that driven side and the competitive side, and those work together to really make a strong leader. Yeah. When you think about the sports that you played with, playing baseball and going and playing in college, how was it for you when you stepped away from that? Because I know, like, that is part of your identity in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. And so as a man, how did that impact you, and what did you do to find your identity after baseball? Because now you aren't playing baseball.
Yeah, I think I heard David Pollock tell it one time where he said essentially that jersey can be current to former overnight. Yeah. And if there's a lot of guys that really struggle when that jersey goes to former, because like their identity is in that jersey, right? So I was fortunate enough to have a lot of things going for me outside of baseball, and I got to hang them up on my own time. I wasn't forced to hang them up. I didn't run out of eligibility and kind of do it on my own time, which was great for me and in my mental space. If it would have gotten taken from me, I think I would have handled it a lot differently. If I didn't get the call on draft day, and it would have been a lot different. Yeah. But man, I was fortunate enough to have a lot of things going for me. I had a lot of people pouring into me for so long that it was like, man, you can't find your identity in this. And I was also, I say I was fortunate to have injuries, but I mean, I had a lot of circumstances that took me away from the game and forced me to find my identity in something else. That really ended up helping me with transitioning out of the game. Yeah. Well,
Gage, thank you for being on the show.
Yeah.
Love you as a friend. Really appreciate you. If you guys don't know Gage, take an opportunity to get to know him. Pray for him. I mean, as a young man, newly married, relatively, a new kid, and really, how long have you been doing mortgage lending now?
A little over a year.
Yeah, just stepped into that. So, I mean, so much in his life, but really believing God's hands on you, believing that you're going to have even greater influence in our community, in our area. And just thankful for you, thankful for what you do and how you leverage your relationships, not for selfish gain, but to really maximize. And you really are driven. You do everything well. And that is something that is not always true of everybody. So thank you for that. Thanks for being on the show, sharing some of your insight. One last question for you. The most embarrassing moment you had in sports.
Oh, wow. Man, I can't tell you how many times that I'd rainy day and I slipped on my butt in front of everybody. You know, somebody lays down a bunt and I'm full sprint on a rainy day and wipe out. That's happened a couple times.
No baseballs to the crotch as a pitcher.
Luckily, I didn't have any of that, but I was the guy that wore cup when I pitched. I was that guy that wasn't letting it happen.
Good. I've seen that happen one too many times. I'm like, man, no. Mm-mm.
Yep. Oh man, I've had a lot of moments where I've gotten pulled off a field for just, man, get it together. You know, like you can't make that mental error, you know? So I've had some embarrassing moments that have definitely made me who I am, for sure.
Well, just wanted to end on that. Some laughter at the end of the show.
Yeah.
Thanks again for being on the show.
Absolutely. Thank you all.
Look forward to the next episode. If you really like and enjoy the Redeem Man podcast, please leave us a rating and review. It's always helpful for us to be able to get the information out to our audience and the other listeners so that they know about the Redeem Man podcast and can check it out. Thanks, and God bless.